With the Digimon TCG English Set 1.5 releasing later next week, I thought it was time that I share with you guys all of my decks that I've been testing for this format. Let's get started. Alright, before I get into today's video, let's back up a little bit. Back in November, I posted a video sharing all of my best 1.0 decks that I've been testing for the new format once we discovered what the actual set list was going to be. And you guys really seemed to enjoy that video, so I've decided to do the exact same thing for the Set 1.5 format. Because ever since 1.0 came out, we knew what cards were going to be in 1.5, and I have been tinkering in the lab and working on so many different decks for so many different colors ever since then, and I'm tired of keeping it all to myself, and I want to share all of these decks that I've been working on with y'all. So while today may not be like the quote-unquote solved deck list for all of these different archetypes, they are my current renditions of every single one, and hopefully me sharing these lists with y'all will give you some good ideas or jumping off points, or just straight up the decks you're gonna play once 1.5 actually comes out next week. Hopefully you guys are excited. I love making these kinds of videos, just full of awesome information that'll hopefully make you better TCG players. If you're excited, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications so you know when my videos go live for you. And don't forget to leave a comment down below saying which deck you are most excited for in the 1.5 format. Oh, I almost forgot. If there's anything in this video you want to talk with me more about, or anything you want to elaborate on, be sure to follow me over on Twitch. I go live all the time and spend so much time in just chatting, and all we do is talk about how awesome this game is and all the things I get wrong in these videos. So be sure to come stop by and we can have some fun. But with all that being said, let's look at some 1.5 deck lists for the Digimon TCG. Alright boys and girls, here we are in DigimonCard.dev, the main website that I use to sort of have an active database on all the cards, as well as build decks for the Digimon TCG. I also use this to sort of import decks into various online simulators like Tabletop, Untap, or Octagon. If you want to use any of these resources, links can be found down below. But moving on to our first deck for the 1.5 decks, we have Imperialdramon Blue. I can never say that card's name. This card is, of course, Dragon Mode. This card is just absolutely insane with the amount of aggression it can actually produce. Being able to effectively attack twice with jamming every single turn, or the turn you Digivolve it, is super sick. I really do like this added addition of aggressive cards that Blue got as of this set. Now, as you'll see by looking at this list, it's not mono blue. There are some green cards in it. The main reason for that is so we can maximize our potential consistency with Davis Motomiya, being able to add both green and blue Digimon, plus having both Dino Beamon and Imperialdramon being our only level 5s in the deck. We always make our Imperialmon Dragon Mode a 3-cost evolution, therefore we never need to pay his gigantic 5 memory cost normally, so we can always gain some kind of value off of this card. And finally, again, to add more consistency with Davis, / just add to our overall aggressive strategy, we are also playing Puppet in this deck as a way to sort of cheat out extra turns against our opponent, or even stop lethal from our opponent depending on what deck they're playing against us or what state we are in during the game. And that's pretty much it for the main win condition of this deck, combining the really powerful turns you can get with Imperialdramon plus Imperial on top of the little chip attackers you can get in the early game with Vmon, Frigimon, or even X Vmon. You can sometimes close out games quite quickly or just in the middle of your turn, which is super cool. Imperial is always a threat your opponent needs to deal with or play around, and sometimes you can just get tons of damage out of nowhere, especially if you have a bunch of jammers in play the turn Imperial comes out. Now, even though this is an aggressive deck, we do have the benefit of being a blue deck, so access to tons of draw cards, as well as memory efficient options like Hammer Spark. We already have Davis, we have removal in the form of Omnimon. Always nice to have some kind of Omnimon in your blue based decks to deal with any kind of big threats, always really good. And thanks to the inclusion of Demi Vmon being able to draw cards with our jammers, things like Vmon and Frigimon not only can get free damage against your opponent, but they can also draw you cards, thus making your overall strategy more consistent. You'll see we only have 1 blue Mega and 2 Omnimons, so to be able to consistently get off things like Omni or consistently get off our Imperial like twice in a game, we need to be seeing a lot of cards. We're even playing cards like Vmon that when you restand, thanks to your Imperialdramon effect or through your Imperial effect, you can draw more cards, which is just honestly super great. this deck, even though it's super aggressive, is still really good at playing the advantage game if it needs to. All in all though, if you want to play blue and utilize the brand new cards that we got in set 1.5, this is the list that I recommend. Moving on, we have the superior Omnimon deck as of set 1.5 in red Omnimon. That's right, boys and girls. The days of blue Omnimon terrorizing us are finally over, and the days of red Omnimon being the bane of our existence is going to begin. Now, really quickly, everyone knows that I'm currently not the biggest fan of Red Omni in 1.0. That's because I think there are better red cards. Come 1.5, with the inclusion of Blitzgreymon as well as Alter S being such powerful tempo and removal cards for this deck, how can I not love what this deck can do? Firstly, you have Blitzgreymon, which is a very powerful tempo card. Being able to Digivolve 2, slow your opponent down, and of course build yourself up is really, really strong. And when you can combo that with a really powerful Digivolve on Alter S, you can Digivolve 3 and then kill everything that's 5000 DP or less. This is a really effective way of board wiping your opponent, which is just like outright ridiculous. But when you combo it with the power of, I don't know, gaining DP, gaining security attack, having cards like Volcanicdramon exist, you can really see how just blatantly strong this deck is in the late game. It's probably only matched by decks like Shinegreymon in how just effective it is at dominating a board state in the late game. All in all though, the deck is pretty much like what you would expect it to look like. You have really strong memory efficient options like 2-drop rookies, 1-drop evolution Darktyrannomon, 2-drop level 5s, 2-drop level 6s, all trying to build a powerful level 6 Omnimon or Omnimon Alter S, which are your main removal options slash ways of winning the game. And by the way, to add insult to injury, you still play 4 copies of Gaia Force because it's the most powerful option card in the game. Just straight up. If you are looking for a deck that's going to just always work, always be good, always have a shot in pretty much any game you play in 1.5, Red Omni is definitely the deck for you. It's probably going to be one that I go to whenever I don't know what else to play for a tournament. Moving away from Red Omnimon, kind of a boring deck to talk about, let's talk about a deck I'm really excited for, and I know a lot of you guys are excited for, in Shinegreymon Yellow. Now, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, I'm a die-hard Yellow fanboy, and Shinegreymon is currently the best version of Yellow we've had to date. In case you guys don't know, Shinegreymon has a really powerful Win Digivolved effect to rest all of your yellow tamers in play and then target one of your opponent's Digimon and give it minus 4000 DP, and this stacks. So if I rest 2 tamers, I can target 2 things, give them minus 4, or I can target 1 thing and give it effectively minus 8. If you have a bunch of tamers in play, this can lead to you being able to board wipe your opponent. He also has an effect that lets him gain DP for every tamer you have in play. This leads to a really powerful strategy that focuses on setting up a bunch of tamers and then in the late game dropping a Shinegreymon to out-tempo your opponent, and if you ever get 2 or 3 of these guys in play, the game literally is just over for your opponent. They have no hope of ever coming back. The late game power for this deck is probably unmatched. So as you can see, we're playing 4 Shinegreymon. He literally is the most powerful card in the deck. If you don't draw him, you lose a lot of the time, so maxing on him makes the most sense. We're also playing 11 different tamer cards. We're not maxing out on these because honestly, you're never gonna need 11 in play. Most of the time you get away with like 4 or 5 being all you really need before you can start popping off with everything else in your deck, which is super dope. And they all have really useful effects to either gain you memory or make your security less appealing for your opponent to attack into, because honestly, the 2 main ways you sort of lose with this deck is you get sort of outpaced early, or you fall a bit behind and you can get outpaced in the middle of the game when they're getting their powerful level 6 or powerful DP Digimon in play, and it's harder for you to deal with cards like Andramon or Glorious Burst. If you want a better like deep dive into like how this deck actually plays, I did make a video a long time ago for my set 2 version of Shinegreymon that I got 2nd place with on an online event. I'll leave a link up here in the art cards above. Be sure to check it out. But this deck won't look exactly like that one because we do have set 3 cards in here like Upamon, Turimon, and even Lopmon, which do add to your general consistency a lot. All in all, Shinegreymon is a really powerful strategy for the 1.5 format. It's a lot of people's favorite decks, and everyone always asks me in my streams, Steven, what is your Shinegreymon deck looking like for 1.5? Well, here it is. Up next, we have another format-defining deck in the form of green. This is going to be green Ceresmon Tempo. You could argue it's like green Ceresmon Control, but I like calling it green Ceresmon Tempo. And here is what my current version of the list is looking like. You will tell, by the way, if you're a fan of this channel, that this is a very similar list to the one that I used to get my very first place ever way back in November, I think. And this is going to be probably the deck that I use the most up until Hidden Potential gets restricted or up until Arcumon gets restricted. So we'll talk more about that later and how that might impact the list. But for now, let's talk about the full power of green, because that's what we're gonna be playing with for the next month. Firstly, what makes green super strong in this format is the introduction of the download or Digisorption mechanic, which lets you rest your own Digimon to make your Digivolution costs cheaper. And that not only lets you get Digimon in for free sometimes, but it also lets you just dig for more cards, as well as get more powerful Digimon in play faster, which helps insulate you against removal options your opponent might have. And the main card that abuses this mechanic is the brand new Ceresmon Green SR, which not only is a 12,000 DP vanilla, but also is a 2-drop thanks to her own Digisorption. And on top of that, she has a really powerful once per turn skill, which lets you rest your opponent's Digimon instead of your own when trying to activate download or Digisorption effects. This can allow you to effectively get powerful Digimon in play on your side of the board while also attacking your opponent's units and clearing out theirs. You're not necessarily one-for-oneing, but it definitely feels like you're just constantly owning your opponent's board and then gaining advantage off of that. And to help support that main strategy of download / Digisorption, we have a lot of surrounding peripheral consistency in the form of 2-drop level 3s that we can play and make any evolution pretty much a 2-cost evolution if we really need to, or cards like Togemon to dig for our powerful level 5s and level 6s. They are the main keys to our combos. And of course, cards like Hidden Potential, which can make our already cheap dudes even more free, or enable cards like CresGarurumon and Stingmon to be able to be flashed into play and get instant value. Now, a thing you'll notice in my deck that you might not be noticing in a lot of green lists you've been seeing is I'm focusing heavily on DP increasing cards. For example, we have 4 copies of Mino, 4 copies of Agu, 4 copies of Kabuterimon, and 3 copies of Gargomon, as well as 2 copies of Rapidmon. And the reason why I'm playing so many DP increasing cards is because the only form of removal we have in this deck is to attack our opponent's rested units. So we need to have a way to make sure that we can always swing into things like Omnimon or just other powerful 12,000 DP dudes, because otherwise we're going to be trading and not actually just plussing over our opponent. So having as many DP increases as possible really adds to your overall control in a sense. I know it's kind of ironic to think of it that way, but it really does. Also, it makes our dudes like CresGarurumon as well as Stingmon just have a higher chance of actually living when they do go in for damage, which is super nice. If you did want to play like more tech options like Stingmon or download level 4 Argomon or more copies of Terriermon, you totally can. The deck has tons of room, but right now I'm using that room to just add more DP increases because the sort of worst matchup for this deck is Omnimon Red, and so you want to have as many ways as possible to swing over that Omnimon when it does come into play. Honestly, this is the deck that I am most hyped for, but sadly, I only get 1 month of it actually being at its full power because come April 1st, we will get the restriction list that directly affects how you build this deck. As you'll see, I'm only playing 3 copies of Hidden Potential, so going to 1 or even 0 honestly won't be the biggest deal in the world. I might just throw in 3 copies of Mimi to help make the deck a bit more memory efficient, / just give us extra units that we can sort of flash into play with Mimi Tachikawa. The real hit, in my opinion, is going to be reducing Argomon to 1. Because losing those Digisorption targets for Ceresmon is a really big deal, but you can kind of mitigate this by playing the level 4 download Argomon as a way to have an extra source of suspension against your opponent, and including more tech level 5s like Rapidmon or even Millenniummon might be a nice inclusion for the deck to kind of give it more options other than just, oh, I need downloaders in hand, otherwise I do nothing. I firmly believe that even post-restriction lists, this deck will be tier 1. So if you've been a die-hard green fan in 1.0, congratulations, you're gonna make some bank for the next few months because this deck is just so much fun, and in my opinion, green only gets better in set 4 and set 5. All right, enough ranting about how amazing I think green is. Let's move on to another deck that I'm excited about, which is going to be CresGarurumon Toolbox for black. The reason why I call it CresGarurumon Box is because it's focused on using CresGarurumon, as well as a slew of powerful level 4s and level 5s that you can flash into play and hopefully get value with, on top of being able to get free dudes in play, having the added benefit of playing cards like Millenniummon, as well as Alter S to have really powerful removal tech options depending on what your opponent is doing or the specific matchup you're in, is really nice for sort of capitalizing on your board presence and turning it into overall advantage against your opponent. We also have cards like Kakenmon and Jokido as a way to increase our memory, so that way we can extend our plays even further once we get later into the game. And a really cool inclusion that I haven't talked about actually for any of these 1.5 decks is of course the security Digimon. I am playing 4 copies of the Garurumon, and the reason is because I want to get even more free dudes in play that I can hopefully turn into later aggression against my opponent, or into powerful level 5s like Rylugermon or Andromon that can become another CresGarurumon or another Rylugermon, which can become another Millenniummon and another Alter S. You kind of see how like we always want to make sure we have dudes in play that we can evolve into more dudes later, even though we're constantly attacking our opponent. And besides that, we're just playing black good stuff. I mean, we're playing 4 Andromon, 4 Garurumon, 4 Gatsumon for the blocker core, so that way we can just make the game last as long as we need it to. We're playing cards like the new Tankmon for memory efficiency as well as powerful DP. We're playing Garurumon instead of playing CresGarurumon because we want to play around other Alter S decks. That's the reason why we're playing this instead of CresGarurumon, in case you're wondering. And all in all, the deck is just super cool. We have the one Infamon in here to get that little cheeky Digivolution call off of CresGarurumon because he does proc on play effects. And the deck is just really consistent and really strong, and currently my favorite way to play black because it enables black to be the kind of beatdown deck I like it to be, and not the kind of beatdown deck that like Craniumon or Ragnarlodemon enable, which is like, oh, I want my dudes just to stay in play and eventually I'll have enough of them to kill you. I want to just constantly get more dudes in play and keep smacking you with them until you're dead. That's how I think this deck likes to operate. Let's move on to the purple deck that I wanted to show you guys, which is Purple Turbo Millie. Now, I'm sure you guys have seen Turbo Millie-esque lists in 1.0 that utilize cards like Boltmon or just whatever you can to try and get Millenniummon in play. This deck works kind of similar to that, but really, the reason why you play it at 1.5 instead of 1.0 is the inclusion of the Meramon line, Demi-Mera, Mera, and Skull-Mera, because they are very consistent cards that kind of just help this deck run and keep it as efficient as possible. And even though there are other purple options out there like Purple Lilith, which is a really powerful deck that utilizes all the option cards in purple, this deck is a super consistent purple deck that does plenty of powerful things and can see a lot of good consistent wins throughout a given event, which is something I like a bit more. Plus, I've already showed you guys Purple Lilith a bunch back in 1.0, so I figured showing you guys this was a nice source of diversity in case you wanted to see some different purple options that exist come 1.5 time. And as you can see, the only 1.5 cards we're actually playing are the Meramons, as well as Gazimon, and the reason why we're playing Gazimon is he's a nice tech option against green, blue, and red decks to stop their memory gain effects, and just overall is a fun thing you can flash and play sometimes with cards like Metal Garurumon. Metal Garurumon, by the way, is like the main reason we're not playing Boltmon in this deck, is because I love the interaction between like him and Impmon, being able to swing with him, get Impmon back from the trash pile, and then evolve said Impmon into a Beelzemon to get hella value against your opponent is just always really nice. So yeah, I don't really need to explain that much about this deck. It's pretty much your standard just like purple engine with like the Gabus, the Vials, the Devis, the Pides, the Beelzy, but we have some extra turbo / memory efficient options in Mera, Skull-Mera, and Demi-Mera, which let you dig for your pieces a lot more, and of course just evolve faster into powerful level 6s. You'll actually see me using this deck evolve into Piedmon or Metal Garurumon as soon as possible, so I can just get that turboed Millie into play and start controlling my opponent's board and having this really powerful attacker that can linger, or this really powerful attacker that can combo with cards like Chimeramon to get even more advantage against your opponent. Purple is definitely one of those decks that like so many different things can happen that once you actually make it as streamlined as possible and as consistent as possible, you'd be surprised what you're actually capable of doing in any single game. All right, moving away from the 6, major colors, let's talk about Rookie Rush, probably the most powerful hybrid deck come 1.5 time. So, if you guys have been watching any of my videos recently on Rookie Rush, you will know that in 1.0, I hate the deck. Well, in 1.5, I love Rookie Rush. The tools this deck gets in 1.5 actually blows my mind. The deck becomes just so consistent, so powerful, and can blatantly do some stupid stuff. So let's talk about the new cards. Firstly, of course, we get Vmon, which is a jamming rookie, which if you've been playing Rookie Rush 1.0, you will know that if you swing with your rookie and they live, you get tons of value. But imagine being able to swing with your rookie, it lives, and if you have 2 memory, evolve into an X-Vmon, re-stand that rookie, and then attack with it again, and guess what? It lived again. Like the idea of 1.5 Rookie Rush isn't let's play as many dudes as possible and just like start attacking with them. It's let's play dudes, attack with them, they live, and let's like keep them around. With cards like Vmon as well as Let's Stop Fighting or We Have to Stop Fighting, we can just enable our dudes to live for like turn after turn after turn and just rack up tons of damage and just steamroll our opponent in like a matter of like 2 or 3 turns. So being able to just like have this much aggression that's like guaranteed is ridiculous for the deck. On top of that, we now have in-engine, or should I say, rookie-based cards that can play around Volcanicdramon. We not only have the inclusion of Betamon, or Penguinmon, which is the 3-cost 5000 DP blue rookie, we also have Arurumon, which is, that's right, a 2-drop 5000 DP rookie for green, which in conjunction with Mushroomon and Puppetmon can enable us to use our brand new powerful card, Positron Laser, which not only is kind of a pseudo flower cannon and that can stop blockers, but it's also a removal card for the deck because you can target 2 of your opponent's dudes, they cannot attack or block during your opponent's next turn, and if you have a blue Digimon in play when you activate this card, you can return a suspended Digimon your opponent has back to their hand. So you can get rid of anything, level 6, level 7, doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's rested, you can return it back. Really, really powerful removal option. If you ever check this in security, oh my god, does your opponent just feel so bad. And on top of that, we're also playing a memory tamer in the form of Davis Motomiya because not only can he get you extra memory that enables powerful plays like X-Vmon or Vmon or whatever else you're playing, but he can search for blue and green Digimon, thus he's a +1, and whenever you have +1s in Rookie Rush, you are always very happy to see them. That's why we're still playing cards like Gabumon. Honestly, this deck is, I wouldn't say it's even more degenerate in 1.5. It's more combo based in 1.5, but with how like consistent the deck is, it's really easy to achieve said combo. And of course, you still have like the late game shenanigans of quadruple Puppetmon, which can just give you like 1 or 2 extra turns against your opponent and just close up the game out of nowhere. So yeah, I'm officially not necessarily on the train of I love Rookie Rush, but I definitely think it becomes a bit more of an intricate deck to play against and has a lot more options at dealing with your opponent's threats that they're presenting to you in any single game. Alright, time for the last deck of the video. I showed you a very aggressive deck in Rookie Rush. Well, here comes a very defensive deck in the form of Kentorismon, Andromon, Eden's Javelin, Yellow. Yes, that's right, boys and girls, Kentorismon is still around in 1.5. It is not just the Shinegreymon show. First things first, you guys know I love Kentorismon. It was the deck that I fell in love with in 1.0. Link up here in the cards above if you want like a more in-depth analysis of how dope this card can be. But the idea of this deck is to be just a super standard, not necessarily control or stall-y type yellow deck, but just gain advantage every single turn against your opponent and do it as soon as possible. So unlike Shinegreymon, you require less setup to actually gain advantage, and you can start doing it out the gate thanks to cards like Andromon, or Mistymon. But the real tools that we gained in 1.5 is the inclusion of cards like Salamon, Gatomon, Shakuamon, and Sylphimon to sort of add to your synergy of what Kentorismon can do. Firstly, if you ever have Gatomon plus Salamon underneath your Kentorismon, you can just straight up attack your opponent's 12,000 DP dudes if they're rested, that's just great. But if you have at least one of them and swing into a security and die to said security, you can kill the 12,000 DP dude with them because you target them, minus them by 1,000, and then they're 11, so they die thanks to Kentorismon's effect. Super broken, honestly great way to kind of get like extra forms of removal for one card that you couldn't really do back in 1.0. But on top of all of this, we get the most powerful option card for yellow, which is Eden's Javelin. This card is just so broken. 6 cost, main trigger, draw +1, then one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 1000 DP for each card in your hand for the turn. So if you have 10 cards, minus 10,000 DP, 15 cards, minus 15. I've had, I think, 20 cards in hand once when activating this and killed whatever I wanted to. It was just so stupid. And if you ever combo it with cards like Labramon, it can just be kind of ridiculous the amount of advantage you can recur over time. On top of that, we do, like I said, have really cool tech options like Shakuamon, which literally is like stall the card, because the second he comes into play, all your opponent's dudes without sources get -1 security check. So if you're playing against like Rookie Rush, this just stops them from being able to kill you unless they have sources. And if you're playing against just like dudes that are just like hard playing stuff because they're trying to play around your Ceresmon or whatever, you can just stop them from being able to kill you. It can just like get you that extra turn you need to actually win the game. Cards like Sylphimon plus Gatomon and like Angemon are ways to like kill dudes that otherwise you wouldn't be able to because they're too powerful, like blockers or other level 4s that exist, which is super cool. Being able to ever get like 2 dudes off of a Mistymon hard play is just like the most value you'll ever see ever. And of course we have cards like Slash Angemon, which is the epitome of removal in this game, hitting over 90% of cards and being able to be played as early as like turn 2 or 3 is just ridiculous. This deck is definitely going to be like playing the long game, kind of like Shinegreymon, but instead of like waiting until you can do a big like setup wombo big drop at the end of the game, you just slowly recur advantage until you have so much that you just beat your opponent outright. That's what this deck is trying to do, and it's one that I highly recommend if you want to be a more outside the box yellow player. And boom, there you guys go. That'll do it for all of my deck lists in the 1.5 format for the Digimon TCG. If you guys did enjoy, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications so you know when my videos go live for you. And if you ever want to talk to me about any of these decks or any other decks that come out as the 1.5 format evolves, be sure to follow me over on Twitch. I go live every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I spend a lot of time in just chatting, and I love talking about this game. So feel free to come stop by, and we can have a fun time over there as well. But without further ado, thank you guys so much for watching. I've been your true champion, Steven. Be sure to work hard, rest easy, and live well. And I will see you all next time. Peace.